Hey guys, Hello Bella here, and I have another book review for y'all, and this one might surprise you because I have not seen any other reviews on this book on YouTube yet. The book I'm going to be reviewing is Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, and the first thing that I'm going to address is, obviously, I am a Southern white woman, so some of you may be thinking, why is she talking about this? But this book really gave me the confidence to start some conversations on this channel and just in general with people about race issues in America and how I can kind of do my part to educate my friends and family and to just kind of be an ally for Black people in America. And one of the things that I was kind of noticing when I was reading this is I feel like a lot of places racism is acknowledged, but in the South, racism is still a part of our everyday lives consistently. It's something that I can't go a month without hearing about, some race-related issue where we live. And I just feel like it's so much more prevalent here because it is more socially acceptable to be racist here. So I think that I'm going to bring a pretty good perspective, although, you know, I'm very nervous to talk about this, and I'm really, you know, trying not to say anything that is offensive and trying not to say anything that's insensitive. But because I am white, there's some things that I just cannot understand. And this book really helped me feel okay with that, if that makes any sense, because, you know, obviously if you're watching this video, you can pick up that I have a thick Southern accent. I was raised around people who were, you know, not okay with Black people even being around. Like I did not grow up with very many Black people, you know, at events that I went to a primarily white school. And so, you know, one of the things he talks about in the book is in order to be a better ally, you should spend time with more Black people and spend time with more people of different ethnic groups in order to kind of see how you've been biased in your other groups that you've lived in. So as you can see, I have flagged some things for us to talk about. So I'm going to go through each one of these. The way that he does the book is he'll propose a question or a topic at the beginning of the chapter, and then he'll kind of discuss the history, and then he'll talk about the current state that we're in, and then he'll give you some ways for you to use what you've learned in the chapter in your own life. And that was kind of the most important thing to me, was like, how can I take this information and make it useful? So that's kind of what I'm going to discuss. And there are a lot of statistics provided in this book about the way that race impacts Black people negatively in America now, as far as systematic racism goes and white privilege goes, and whether or not you believe in those things or not, they are real, and it's backed up by evidence. So, you know, it's kind of something that I hate that I even have to say this, but you know, in my normal everyday life, I've gotten into arguments with people about it. The first thing that I highlighted in this was just a short sentence, but it says, another part of white privilege is the omnipresent benefit of the doubt. It's the safety of moving through the world without being profiled, without worrying that the police might harass you, or worse, just because of your skin. So obviously, intellectually, I realized that I have a lot of privilege, but reading this book made me realize, like, I don't worry about anything really. Like, I can go to the store, I can drive in my car, I can speed if I want to speed, I can run a red light if I want to run a red light. Not saying that I do that on purpose, but I mean, we're all flawed human beings, but I don't have to fear for my life in the situation that I am pulled over. I don't have to give my children a speech about how to act in public when the police arrive. You know, I don't have to cultivate everything that I say and filter it so that I don't piss off the wrong people. One thing that he talks about quite a bit in this book is how white people deal with the issue of saying things like, well, I didn't own slaves. My ancestors didn't own slaves, so why are you mad at me? There are a lot of people who say things like that, and I don't think they're coming from a place of like understanding or trying to understand that because there were generations of people who did not choose to come to America and had to be slaves for decades and decades, that they are still seeing the effects of that now. And, you know, when you read about it on a level of like, okay, well, Black people had harder time getting housing. They own less property now as a result of that. That was a big one for me, being a real estate agent in the past. You know, why are more Black people not homeowners? You realize that that it was harder for Black people to get loans back in the day. They were redlining certain areas, which means that they would not allow for loans or mortgages in the Black neighborhoods. And this caused issues for Black people to build generational wealth, because if you know anything about real estate, the more you buy, the more it becomes worth more money in the future. So if you weren't allowed to buy property 40 years ago, then your family hasn't been generating all that wealth from now to then. So going back to the real estate example, he says on page 72, plantation shutters are a reminder of the worst thing America has ever done, and apparently there's still a plus on Zillow. So quick story for you guys. I used to be a real estate agent, and in touring some of the historic homes, I once had a couple take me through their home. Very nice home, $500,000 home, and they showed me every single room, and then they told me about the old slave quarters that were in the attic, and wanted to walk me up there and look at it. And at this point, I'm already freaked out. I'm like, this is really weird that you're proud of this, and it's also just making me really uncomfortable. So they insist on me going up there and looking at where the slave quarters used to be in this house. And at this point, I'm just like completely disgusted with them. I just want to get out of there. And I did not wind up working with them, but to me, I just thought, why are we celebrating this? Why is this something that we're proud of? They were like almost like giddy children ready to show me where the slaves used to stay. And all I could think was like, this is a huge generational gap here. They're not even understanding at this point how wrong that is, that they are showcasing it to someone that they don't even know. That was one of those examples to me where I just thought, you know, the antebellum houses and the plantation homes that people tour and have weddings at, to me, it's just really off-putting. And especially as a Southerner, it's a very big thing in our culture to have weddings, a plantation house wedding, and it's just really strange to me. And I know, you know, in making this video, being from Alabama, I have a lot of things that I've, I guess, gone throughout the years, and, you know, kind of thought, that's kind of weird, or I don't know why they're bringing this up. And looking back on it, you know, it's kind of like you wish you would have said something, or you wish you would have done something differently, but you didn't really have the knowledge or the capabilities to do it at that point. At least I didn't, especially when I was younger. But now, you know, I'm kind of like more adamant to be like, well, that's weird. Why are we doing this? You know, or that's strange. Why are we celebrating this? So that is something that I thought just was really, really odd. This feature of celebrating past slave quarters. And I don't tell that story to, I don't really know why. I just wanted to tell you because, you know, I just thought it was odd. And that's just one example that happened in the last 2 years for me of something being celebrated where I thought they should be kind of like ashamed. I don't know if that's the right word, but they definitely shouldn't have been proud to show me that. Okay, well, I couldn't make this video without talking about the amount of Black people that are incarcerated. And obviously, they're incarcerated at much larger numbers than what white people are incarcerated at. This says about 13% of the U.S. population. Black people make up 1/3 of those in federal and state prisons. So there are entire books about this. There's a book called The New Jim Crow, and this addresses some of the issues of putting Black people basically in prison because we can no longer use, you know, their labor anymore. So we're putting them in prisons and making them work on stuff for free. And that is our own way of doing it in America now. And if you're not from America and you're watching this video, look up some statistics about U.S. prisons and how many prisons are for-profit prisons. So these places that are supposed to be rehabilitating people are making money when they reach a certain capacity level. So why on earth would they want to rehabilitate them if keeping them there makes them more money? You know, their incentive is to keep them there and to keep them coming back. And maybe this doesn't really have anything to do with the book here, but if you've watched the movie Just Mercy, you can also see how many Black people fought wrongful convictions because they were incarcerated because he said, she said, a white lady said, you touched them, and before they knew it, they were going off and being put in prison for things that they didn't even do, simply being at the wrong place at the wrong time. One of the best things about this book, to be honest with you, is he puts headers up and they say, let's get uncomfortable. It's kind of letting you know that things are about to get real. So he says, I hope you see where I'm going with this. Remember what I said about white privilege, about how you don't have to do anything to have it work for you? Well, it's worked that way for as long as it's been around, which means you've likely spent your whole life enjoying the fruits of systemic racism and never having to directly engage with its fallout. So you are a benefactor of racism without actually doing anything. And it's not necessarily your fault, but it's also up to you to become aware of this and to try to turn the tide in a different direction. And right now, just making this video, I'm getting some anxiety over it because I know what white people will say when they hear things like this. They become automatically triggered because you told them that they have an unfair advantage that they didn't earn, especially being a Southerner. That is the worst thing you can say to a Southern person, is that they didn't work hard enough or that they didn't earn something. The possibility for them to understand that they maybe didn't come about it in the fairest way is incomprehensible to them. They literally think that you have just like spit on them because you said that they didn't work for something. So one of the reasons that I thought this was a great book, because it kind of explains it in a way that is almost, he's like almost holding white people's hands. And that's another reason why I think that personally, I'm the target market for this book. Someone who has not been around a lot of black people, who does have questions, but doesn't really know how to ask them, who wants to help, but doesn't want to, you know, step on toes or offend anyone. So I think this is a great way of talking about it and thinking about it. This is probably one of the last things I'll touch on in this video, and that is the statement, I don't see color. Now, I have heard this statement a lot of times in my life, especially when I was younger and dealing with issues where, you know, we would have a teacher or something like that say it, or a mentor say it. And I think that, you know, it wasn't until the last couple of years I realized that that was a problematic thing to say. He says that it's not an okay thing to say, because to say we're all exactly the same is to gloss over a whole history and presence of inequality. And I think that that pretty much sums it up. It's kind of like if you were, you know, talking to a group of women at a self-defense class and you said, like, I don't see gender. Well, obviously gender plays a huge role in their lives as women. And, you know, to say that it's not a factor is kind of just like a slap in the face. So a lot of times I'll use feminist examples to kind of wrap my brain around the racist examples, because I have not dealt with racism, but I've definitely dealt with sexism. And so that is one way to understand it. Just looking at this book on a theory level, I think that he does an incredible job of explaining things in a way that anyone could understand. I think that one issue when it comes to anyone who is white and trying to talk about racism issues is we do feel uncomfortable. We do feel scared. I personally feel like, honestly, it opens you up to so much criticism from both sides, because you feel like, I don't want to say the wrong thing to a black person, and then a white person is going to be analyzing every single thing I say as well. I think that the best thing that you can do is read books like this and talk to people like this. Watch videos from the channel Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. It's an incredible series that he's put together of videos of interviews with people talking about racial issues. And this is something that I really am passionate about, because I just felt ignorant, completely ignorant. You know, like my worldview was so small that I was not prepared for even some of the concepts in this book. So please recommend more books like this to me, because I want to learn and I'm ready to learn, and I really want to be able to have these conversations. So please leave a comment if you have anything to say about these subjects, and please be respectful. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the book review, guys. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. If you want more content like this, or you just are interested in what I'm doing, you can always subscribe to the channel. But yeah, I will catch you in the next video, guys. Take care until then.